You're listening to the Love Over Addiction podcast. Hey, how are you? So, I had a big aha this morning while I was working out that I wanted to share with you. And before I tell you what my big moment was, a revelation, I want to share with you what I was doing when I had my aha. So I try to work out about an hour a day, 6 days a week. I just find that I need to move my body for the benefit of my mind. I don't do it for weight purposes because I think when I exercise more, I eat more. So it's kind of a wash. But I find that for my mental health, it really helps to move my body. So I ask myself in the morning, okay, body, what do you feel like doing today? And I have many options. I can go walking with a friend, or I can go on my elliptical and watch really dumb TV that's thoughtless but entertaining. And then I can also do this new exercise that I want to share with you because it is so profound to me. I've never done anything like it, and I've tried a lot of exercise programs out there. It's called The Class. Have you all heard of this? Not many women I know have. So it's started, first of all, I have no affiliation with this business. Like, they don't know I'm mentioning this on the podcast, and I'm not reaching out to ask for anything. I don't do that by principle. When I started this community, many, many, many years ago, I made it a policy where I don't want to do that. So it's called The Class. It was created by a woman named Tara Toomey. And it is unbelievable. So it's usually an hour long, which I know sounds really daunting. All you need is a yoga mat. That's it. That's the only equipment. And they ask you to turn down the lights, and you light a candle beforehand, and you get a bottled water, and you clean up your area so that there's nothing distracting you. So I do it in my bedroom. So I'll make my bed. I'll make sure all my shoes are put away in the closet, that there's nothing that I'm going to be working out and going, oh gosh, I've got to take care of that. And then for me, because I have a zillion kids and an hour of uninterrupted time is like very, very rare, I'll put a do not disturb sticky note on my door, and I'll lock my door. And I stream it from my phone to my TV. I have a very big TV in my bedroom, which everyone says not to put a TV in your bedroom, but I do. So I stream it on my phone, and then I'll get my nicest workout clothes because and I'll do my hair in like a high pony. And why does that matter? Because I feel like if I look my best, I'll feel better while I'm exercising. I don't know about you guys, but sometimes I'll just throw on like a mismatching outfit, and I don't know, for some reason it just feels like I'm distracted by it. Maybe that's just me. So why am I going into such great detail about this program? Because this exercise class, because it is like therapy, you guys. And it's amazing. So the premise is you work out making noises, which sounds bizarre, I know. But you yell, or you grunt, or you breathe really loud, or you make noises with your mouth. You unstick yourself. You go inside when you exercise, and you let out your emotions, and it's loud and it's weird, and you usually close your eyes while you're doing it. And then at the end, typically while they're doing arm work, or while the instructor's doing arm work and you've got your eyes closed, they play this music. And that's the other thing. You have to turn it up really, really loud. Like you need to blast it because the music is unbelievable. The music moves your heart and it creates space around your heart and a hum around your heart. And I've never done anything. It sounds very metaphysical. It sounds very spiritual. It sounds very connected to something greater than yourself. It is. And yourself. It connects you to yourself. And so at the end, you're usually crying, which sounds crazy. And a lot of girls that I know or women that I know that have tried this said that they were quite intimidated at the beginning, but you're doing it in the privacy of your own home. They have studios in Los Angeles and New York, and there's some celebrities that take this class. Naomi Watts takes this class, and the girl from La La Land does this. But here's the deal. If you are one of those women where you're like, I cannot afford to go to a therapist every week, I think this class is $40 a month. I'm definitely not saying this is a substitute for therapy, but if your finances are a little tight, try this. I think it's like $10 a class. It works out. Well, it's $10 a week. And so if you do 3 classes per week, do the math. I won't. And it is just cleansing and unsticking and revolutionary. And at the end of this class today, here was my big aha moment. And of course, it has something to do with addiction because it always does. I was thinking, while I was married to a very good man who suffers from addiction, I really struggled with anger. And anger does not get talked about enough with women. It's a very real emotion. And I think as women, we kind of feel ashamed for feeling anger. So anything that I think there's shame around, I love to talk about over and over again because it releases the shame. And if there's ever a topic that a lot of people, shy away from, that's the topic that I'm attracted to because I think we need to shed light on darkness. I think that's really helpful. So when I was married the first time around, I felt I really struggled with anger. I felt angry that he would lie to me. I felt angry that he wasn't getting sober for me. I felt angry that, he promised me and then he never kept his promises of staying sober. I felt angry that he was using our money and wasting all of our money on drugs and alcohol. I felt angry that he, lost his job. I felt angry that I was constantly put in the position to be a mom, that I felt like I just wanted him to grow up and take responsibility for his life and start making really responsible decisions. I felt angry and resentful that I was spending my time trying to help him get sober, ripping myself off and my kids off of the time that I should be dedicating to myself and my children. That every ounce of energy and attention seemed to be sucked up by addiction. And I was angry that every time I thought that things were going to get better, that I was disappointed. I was let down again. I mean, how many times does one get fooled, allow themselves to get fooled by this disease until they finally just say, forget it, I'm not believing anything anymore? How many times do we have to get our heart broken by the same person over and over again? And for how long does it feel like we're living in chaos and trauma and this awful roller coaster ride of good and bad and happy times and sad times? And it can leave us feeling angry, right? So is anger like the final emotion? Is that as deep as it goes? And during this workout, I was thinking about my anger, and I was thinking, no, anger, the deeper feeling, if you were to take anger deeper, is fear, right? It's fear. We are afraid that things will never get better with our loved one. We are afraid they will never choose sobriety long term. We are afraid that they actually do love drugs and alcohol more than they love us, and even scarier, more than they love their children. We are afraid that we are going to go broke and homeless, and that all of this cash and money and finances are going to go to drugs and alcohol. We're afraid they're cheating on us. We're afraid that we don't know where they are and they're not answering their phones. We're afraid of their friends and the influence that their friends are. We're afraid that people aren't going to believe us when we tell them, when we finally have the courage to tell them how bad our lives are. We're afraid of rejection from our family members or from their family members or from our friends. We're afraid that they're going to say, oh, you should just leave him, and that we actually might have to leave them. And one of our greatest fears is being alone. Let's just say that. That's why we stick with them and put up with all of this, because the idea of being by ourselves scares us to death. So behind all of that, anger, because anger is an attempt to control. Anger is feeling lack of control. Behind that is the fear. Okay, so we're constantly living in a state of fear. And behind fear, if you take it one step deeper, is sadness. We are sad that we love somebody who cannot love themselves enough to get sober. We are sad for our children that they have to be raised in a household with a parent that isn't choosing them all the time, every time, that isn't safe and isn't stable. We are sad and mourning that we chose somebody to be with who doesn't love us the way that we crave to be loved. We are sad that when we think about our future, we think we don't know how much longer we can do this. We are sad that when we compare ourselves to the people, our friends or our family members that are happily married, and we don't have that, and we so desperately want that. We would do anything for that. We are sad when all of our plans that we have, all of the seeds that we have planted have not fertilized and grown, and there's nothing to show for them. We're sad that life might not ever get normal. That breaks our heart. And so when I was exercising today and I was going through all of these phases of feeling, I started to cry at the end of the workout, and I started mourning, really, really, really mourning my first marriage. And part of me was judging myself for that. Like, wait a second, Michelle, this happened years and years and years ago. Aren't you over this? Haven't you moved through this? Why are these memories of your first marriage popping up in your conscience right now and that are causing you to cry, a deep cry? And I realized that when you are in love with someone suffering from addiction, you are constantly in a fight or flight mentality. You are fighting for your life. You are fighting for their life. You are fighting for your marriage. You are fighting for your relationships. You're fighting for your kids. Or flight. You're thinking, I've got to get out of here. I've got to move on. I've got to leave. I've got to figure out a way to get over this and take my kids and run. Right? You're in fight or flight. You're constantly presented with a pile of crap that addiction gives you. And you have to deal with that. Because that is your reality. So you're constantly on this heightened sense of awareness and just trying to make it through to the next day and the next moment. You're just trying to survive. And that is exhausting. And that does not leave a lot of room for sadness. It doesn't leave a lot of space for just going inside yourself, doing what I did, which is putting a sticky on the door, locking the door, and taking an hour for yourself to say, how do I feel? How am I doing? And the answers will probably be not very good. I'm not doing well right now. Or if you are doing well that moment, which is very possible too, you might pull up some old memories or old past feelings of not being well and deal with them and work through them. But I don't think personally I ever dealt with the third layer of sadness because I was married and trying to fight, and then I decided flight and leave, and that in itself was crazy difficult. Best thing I ever did. Don't regret a second of it, but very difficult. Made me who I am into a tough, confident woman. But you're like, okay, just get through the day. You're standing strong in confidence and toughness. And that's not gentle, soft, and sad. And so then I left, and that took about 6 months. And then I was a single mom. Now, if any of you are single moms out there, there's not a lot of space for yourself there. If you get a bath at the end of the day for 20 minutes, that's a victory, right? So you're in that I finally made it. Your relief, your guard comes down because you've made it out of the swampy jungle of addiction, and you've made it to the promised land, and you're now a single mom, and your home is safe, and it's calm, and it's peaceful to the degree. You guys get what I'm saying. I mean, if you have young kids, it's not calm and peaceful, but it is in the sense that addiction isn't there. And I really enjoyed my life. I really, really enjoyed that time in my life where I was a single mom, and I came home to whatever home I left. It was stable. It was steady. I was starting a new foundation, and it felt really, really good to be in control and in charge, and exciting, because then I started dating my now second husband, and that was amazing and wonderful and healing in so many ways. But I don't think I ever went through the mourning stage, the sadness stage, the stage where I cried. And so today, while I was doing my exercises, I was crying, and I was crying for him, for my first husband, and I'm going to start to cry now. You guys, when I say every podcast, I try to say consciously, I make the decision to say I was married to a good man who suffers from addiction. He was a good man. I have known him since we were 15 years old. And you guys, he was so good looking. He was so smart. He was funny, beyond funny. And he was excellent at sports, the captain of a lot of the teams in high school. And he had it all. And I felt so honored that he would choose me to be with, which is very common in our community. I think we feel like we're not deserving of the love that, we could potentially have. So we think, we're just flattered if anyone is interested in us that we think is better than us. But when I think about my first husband, I mourn for the man he's turned into, because it's not the greatest. And I don't want to offend him, but I don't recognize him anymore. I feel like that man is gone. The man that I fell in love with, the boy that I've met and married, I feel like that guy is gone and passed away many years ago. And he's now been replaced. And when I talk and see pictures of the man he's turned into, I don't see him in his eyes. I don't see that boy in his eyes anymore. I see a tough guy who is a shell of a person and who's lost. And he's vacated his body and addiction has moved in. And that's why it's very easy for me to detach when I do talk to him now. I recognize I am not talking to the man I married once. I am talking to the imposter. And that helps me not get emotionally attached at all. And I've very carefully positioned myself where my kids, I had 3 kids with him, have been adopted by my husband that I'm married to now, who is an amazing father. That's the number one reason why I married him. The most incredible dad I've ever witnessed. And I don't have to talk to my first husband anymore. He's not interested in the kids at all. He doesn't even know when their birthdays are. So I get to choose if I want to interact. And just recently I've made the decision where I'm not going to answer the phone when he calls. There's really no purpose or reason for it anymore. A part of me always wanted to remain friends with him due to my kids, for my kids' sake. But if he's not interested in my kids, I'm not quite sure that that's necessary anymore. So for now, I've decided to not answer the phone, and that feels healthy for me. But I do feel so sad and mourn for my kids because they've had to overcome having a father who suffers from addiction and who has rejected them and who's not interested in them at all. Now, thankfully, I believe in telling the truth all the time, and I've raised my kids with the truth, and have had many, 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 many thousands of conversations with all of my children about their biological father. And I let them form and own their own opinion. I do not let them inherit mine. And whatever their reaction is, and all 3 of them are reacting very differently, they are entitled to that reaction. I do not criticize. I do not weigh in my opinion. I listen and I love. And that's always been my rules with how my kids interact with their biological father. So I have one kid who still very much loves him, and even though he is adopted by my second husband, he has kept his last name. That's important to him. And I love him, and that I respect that decision. And he very much, I don't want to say, like, he doesn't talk to my first husband, but he is not angry. And that is terrific. I have another child who does feel anger, and does, I don't want to say disgust, but has anger towards her biological dad for making the decisions not to get sober. Okay? And so she absolutely has every right to feel that way as well. And then I have a third child who doesn't care. Like, he was 1.5 when I left, and he's like, I don't know. I guess I don't know. I don't really care. And that's okay too. And that felt weird to me at first. I'm like, how could you not care? But I think because my second husband is so involved in their lives and acts, I mean, because he is there, when you adopt a child, the legal document says they are now your blood. It uses the word blood, at least in Florida. And so my husband always treats them like blood. There's no difference. There's nothing at all. So maybe that's why my third child is so indifferent. I don't know. And maybe he won't be indifferent. Maybe he'll, and that's the other thing. They reserve the right to change their minds about how they feel. And so do you. So I mourn for them, but I do mourn for them. I mourn for their loss. And I've tried to do a good job of replacing their father, but that's never fully possible, is it? So I mourn for that. I mourn for the man that I think my first husband could have grown into. I mourn for my marriage, and I think back on the happy times. I think back on all of the good memories, because it wasn't all bad. Otherwise, I wouldn't have stayed. There was some wonderful memories. So I mourn over that. But it was really good today to sit there and go, A, not judge myself for crying about something that happened a long time ago to me, and B, to let myself cry. And I might do it again the next time I do this exercise, and again, and I'll do it whenever I want to. It was just so wonderful to recognize that sadness and grieving and mourning is very, very much an important part of this process. It might not be possible for you to get to that place, but if you are interested in setting yourself up for a beautiful space of opportunity to go within and to mourn, and therapy is not an option for you right now because we're still in the pandemic, so you might be uncomfortable with going into an office with a therapist. You might not want to do Zoom therapy, or just might financially not be available to you. Maybe you sign up for this. It's called theclass.com. Try it out. It's an app. If you like it, let me know. I'd love to hear. And also, if you are in one of those people that are financially not in the position to purchase one of our programs, we give, for every woman that buys one, we give one away because everyone deserves help. So it's going to be, for 2021, let's prioritize our mental, spiritual, and physical well-being. Let's make this the year where we commit to ourselves to try to live a better life, to try and live with more knowledge so that we can make better choices. Because I think you guys obviously that are listening to this are curious enough to want to improve your life. Otherwise, you wouldn't be listening to this. But oftentimes, we can't quite make the right decisions, or we struggle with making the right decisions. We question our decisions because we don't have the knowledge. We might have 10% of the knowledge, but we don't have 100%. These podcasts are great, but these podcasts are like the sides on a plate. They're not the main meal, right? So if you look at a plate, you might have, these podcasts are like the mashed potatoes and the Brussels sprouts, but they are not, the chicken breast. The chicken breast is the program. And in order for you to equip you with the best decisions possible moving forward and giving you the best opportunity, you need a toolbox, right? So ideally, in an ideal world, what does a toolbox look like? It looks like you listen to the podcast every week. You do 5 to 10 minutes a day, maybe 15 a day of a program, and you should go through all of the programs. And you write in your workbook. We have a workbook for the Love Over Addiction program. So if you like to read out, if you're more of a visual person, which I am, the whole program is written in that workbook along with questions that are prompting you. And we put in a ton of money into creating this, so it's something really beautiful for you. In fact, a lot of women say they don't like to write in it because it's so pretty. And then if you can, if you're in a financial position, I would encourage you to go to therapy, and I would encourage you to move your body and join the class or some sort of other type of movement if it's not the class. But that would be a terrific start, and quite honestly, very time consuming, I know, to give you a full arsenal of tools. You make no mistake about it. You absolutely cannot white knuckle this process of loving somebody that suffers from addiction. Just like statistics show, most people don't get sober just by deciding on their own and then never touching it again. They have toolboxes. They have tools that they can go to when they're tempted to drink. The same logic and rules apply to you. We need to not get it out of our heads that if we just try hard enough and use our knowledge of the past, that somehow that's going to make our future better. That's not true logic. What we need to do is sit there and go, okay, what I have been doing up to this point hasn't brought many fruitful results. It really hasn't been working that great for me. So I need to be willing and open to trying new things and committing to myself. That's where change is going to happen. Is it going to be comfortable? No. Are you sitting there, some of you, worried about spending the money and investment on yourself? I know you are, because I was, because my ex-husband used to go through the credit card bill and check off anything that he felt was unnecessary, even if it was. And this is where you need to have the courage to say, okay, if that situation applies, then let's go through this bill and check off all of the money that was spent on drugs and alcohol and bar bills and DUIs and jail and bailouts and whatever. And then we can decide what's fair. Let's do that math. Let's use that standard. Because I guarantee you what they're spending per week to get high or drunk or, porn or whatever else they want to subscribe to, whatever else they're addicted to, is going to cost less than the investment that you would make for yourself with buying the programs or joining this class or going to therapy. It's going to be less. And it will produce the most wonderful, healthy, life-changing results, as opposed to something that's actually helping harm your loved one. So where are you going to choose to invest? Are you going to choose to only invest in addiction, or are you going to choose to invest in both? I know you don't want to invest in addiction, but you can't really control that. So choose to counteract that negativity with positivity by investing in your future. You've got to take a stand. And I know you're sitting here going, Michelle, move on. You're parking on this topic too much. I hear you, but not really, because so many people out there are frozen and cannot unstick themselves when it comes to reaching out and getting help and investing in help for themselves. They settle for crumbs instead of getting the main course. And I'm telling you right now, it will help you make such wise, informed, confident decisions for your future. It will ultimately, knowledge is the key to making a better life for yourself. It's knowledge. It's becoming aware. Awareness is probably the most important tool that you can create. Awareness of yourself, awareness of your reality, awareness of your choices moving into the future, awareness of what you want. awareness of your boundaries, awareness of your mistakes that you might be making, awareness of what you don't want, what you're not willing to put up with, right? These are all part of self-discovery that needs to happen. So for 2021, let's make an agreement that we are going to commit to really, really digging deep by taking it layer by layer by layer, so that when 2022 comes around, we're not still stuck in the same position with the same chaos, with the same issues, with the same problems that we're still mulling over. I believe in you. And I know if you're listening to this right now, that you've got what it takes to get that life that you want. People don't listen to these types of podcasts that don't have the ability to change. This community attracts a very action-oriented, no BS, tell it like it is type of people. That's all we have in our community, and it's amazing. Because why? Because I ask a lot of you on all of these podcasts. I ask a lot of you in these programs. I'm not just giving you a bunch of self-help fluffy that you don't understand and can't apply to your life. There's quite a bit of pressure on you. And truly, that's what I needed when I was married the first time around, that I didn't have until I got a amazing therapist, and it took me 5 therapists to get there. She started putting pressure on me. I went to her 3 times a week because I was, anyways, long story, but for a short period of time, I went to her 3 times a week. And it wasn't until she raised her expectations of me and my life that I started changing and getting better and healthier. And that's what I want to be for you. I am your friend that sits there and says, hey, you know what? You deserve better. Here's your reminder that your life doesn't have to remain like this. It doesn't have to stay like this. You don't have to continue to put up with this. You can do better because you deserve better. And so let's get you in running this race and through the finish line so that you can feel a sense of accomplishment and completeness and hope that you've never, ever felt before. And the only way to do that is to step in, be willing to be uncomfortable, and get the knowledge. Okay? I love every one of you. I'm proud of you for listening. I'm proud of you for showing up. You are rare and you are unique, and you should be proud of yourself. It's going to get better. I promise you. Let's just get started working together. I'm cheering you on. This podcast is created for your support, encouragement, and entertainment with my personal thoughts and beliefs. We are bonded together by the fact that we love someone suffering from addiction. This is not intended as a substitute for therapy or advice from a professional.